Okay, there's one source sheet today. It's double-sided. Today's class is dedicated by Rebbe Menachem Abrams, our dear friend, in honor of his dear parents, Rabbi Moshe and Dvorah Abrams. It's also dedicated by Nora Kagan in memory of her father, Reb Velvel Kogan. Thank you very, very much. Tahina Shmosei Tzrura B'Tzrur HaChaim. We're going to learn today a Medrash, a fascinating story in the Medrash, and it's a story about the great sage Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, whose, of course, yahrzeit is Yom HaYilula, and day of celebration. We celebrate this coming Sunday on Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, the 18th of Iyar, is the yahrzeit, the Yom HaYilula, what's known as the Yilula literally means wedding, anniversary, because Rashbi asked that the day of his passing should be celebrated, and celebrated with great festivity. And especially since this year, the Jews won't be able to go to Miron due to the situation in the north of Israel with Hezbollah and Lebanon. So it's certainly very appropriate to learn the teachings of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, especially in connection to his great joyous day, Lag BaOmer. So this is a story about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It's a very astounding and perplexing story. It's certainly extremely original and creative. Talk about thinking out of the box. Somebody once told me that his son told him, he says, I don't want to, he's told his son, think out of the box. He says, I don't want to think out of the box. I want to think as though there's no box. So this is one of those stories, and you could look at it inside. It's, you see on top it says, it's double-sided, make sure you have the right side. Medrash Rabbi Shir Hashirim, Perek Aleph. On the Song of Songs, Shir Hashirim, there's a Medrash known as Medrash Rabba, Shir Hashirim Rabba. The first chapter on the words Nagila v'nismecha bach. We're going to rejoice and celebrate with you, in you, literally in you. The Medrash tells the following story. Davar acher, another meaning of the words Nagila v'nismecha bach. Taman, Taninan, it's based on what we have learned. Nasa Adam Isha v'shayim ma'eser shanim v'layolda ene rashayi libatil. If a couple is married for 10 years, so this is a justification or an obligation or a justification for them to part ways in order to be able to have children. Amar Reb Idi said, Maisa be'isha achas, I want to tell you a story. There was a woman, Isha achas means one woman, who lived Sidon. She lived in a city in Eretz Yisrael, in the Holy Land, called Sidon. Sheshahasa eser shanim in Baila v'lo yalda. She was married 10 years, and she did not give birth. Asoin gabe Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. So the couple, the wife and the husband, came to the great sage, Rabbi Shimon, the son of Yochai. Now just for historical context, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai lived in the first century after the Common, the first and second century after the Common Era. This was the century after the destruction of the Bais HaMikdash. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the great student of Rabbi Akiva, who was killed by the Romans, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai too, as we know, was persecuted very heavily by the Romans. He had to hide in a cave for 13 years with his son, Rabbi Elazar. They were in a cave in order to protect themselves from the Roman ire, because there was a death sentence on him. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he lived in Sidon, one of the places, or Tzipori, near, not far from Sidon, and he was visited by this couple. Again, married 10 years without children. What did they want from Shimon Bar Yochai? Boyen lemishtafka dein medein. They decided it's time to get divorced. Mishtafka in Aramaic means to release each other. He would release her, she would get divorced from him, and they would both be free to pursue their lives. And that way, hopefully, they could maybe still have children. This is what happened. So they come to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who's one of the greatest rabbi of the time, to give the get, to make sure, to arrange the get so that they can get divorced. No. Amar lahain, he says to them, this is where the story gets interesting. He says, Chayei Chaim. Chayechan literally means by your life, which is a euphemism of I swear. Like you swear by your life. You know, people say, I swear by my life, I swear by your life. By your life. Meaning, by your life. Kishem shen is davaktem zelazeh b'machal u'mishta. Kach einatem misparshim elametech machal u'mishta. Just as when you got married to each other, when you started your zivug, when you started your relationship, how did you get married? There was a meal, there was a feast, there was a wedding. What happens at the wedding? There was eating, and there was drinking, and there was feasting. That's how you should get divorced from each other. The divorce should replicate the wedding. That's what he says. Misparshim. Misparshim is the word perisha. When you're separating from each other, only with food and feasting. This was obviously a very novel instruction. We know that a wedding, we make a feast. There's a simcha, a special simcha. In fact, it's the greatest joy, the joy of a chasana. So you eat and you drink, and there's music and there's dancing and all the other beautiful things at a wedding. But nobody ever heard that a get should be done with a celebration. In fact, it's known that there were even rabbis that the day that they would give a get, they would fast. They wouldn't eat. There's no obligation not to eat, but because it was a sad day. In fact, I grew up, there was somebody in the community got divorced. So he came to the Rav wearing his Shabbos clothes. Wearing his big day Shabbos. It was, I guess, a big simcha by him. So the Rav said, go home and put on your regular clothes and come back. You have to put on your Shabbos clothes. But here, Rashbi gave a very counterintuitive instruction. The divorce should look like the wedding. Okay? Halchu b'drachav. Second paragraph. They followed his path. They followed his instructions. V'asu la'atzman yomtiv. And they made for themselves a yomtiv, a holiday. V'asu su'uda g'doyla. They didn't only have food and drinks. It looks like they were famegliche people. They were people of means. So they arranged a su'uda g'doyla, means a huge party, a huge feast, a huge meal. V'shikarta yoser midai. And she gave him to drink a little too much. The wife gave her husband, v'shikarta is the word shikar. She inebriated him, she intoxicated him, yoser midai, more than his vessels can contain. Okay? Kivan shenis daiti alav. When he came back a little to himself, he was very, very high, he was very, very tipsy, but he came back a little to himself because she gave him so much to drink at this meal. Amar la, he turns to his wife, who's now becoming his ex-wife, and says, Biti, my daughter. Biti is like an expression, like, my daughter, my love, my friend. Ri'i, look. I'm a man of means. Kol chayfetz toiv sheyesh li babayis. Ri'i, look at any precious item that I have in the house. V'tli oisai, and take it, ulechi lebeis avich, as you go to your father's home. In other words, this was a gesture. Obviously, there's always an arrangement by divorce, the husband's obligations, the wife's obligations. But here, in the midst of this feast, he says, take anything you see in this house. If there's a $20 million Raphael or Chagall or or Da Vinci, take it home. Take it, whatever you see. Kol chayfetz toiv. The most precious chayfetz object or item in this house is yours. Take it as you go to your father's home, you go back to your parents. Okay? This was his gesture to his soon-to-be divorced wife. Ma'asa sahi. What did she do? You would expect her to find the most precious piece of jewelry or painting or furniture in the house and take it. Why not, right? Remember, he had a lot to drink. She gave him a lot to drink. He fell asleep. She intimated to her servants, male servants or maid servants, and said to them, Sa'uhu b'mita. Put him into a bed. Take him, and bring the bed and him to the house of my parents. Fine, that's what they did. So now this guy ended up in his shviger's house. Literally in his mother-in-law's house, father-in-law's house. But chatzi alayla, middle of the night, ninar mishnase. The meal may have started early afternoon. So this was a long drinking party. So I guess in the middle of the night, at some point he woke up. Kivan de pug chamre. The wine, pag chamri, means he sobered up from the wine. The wine, pag, means its effect was diluted. Amar la, he sees her, he says, Biti, my daughter. Again, Biti is an expression. She was his wife, but he just it was like an expression of affection. You know, my kid, my child. Heichen ani nasa. Where am I? I don't recognize this environment. Amra la, she says to him, Bais Abba, you're in my dad's house, my father's home. Amar la, he says to her, Mali lebeis avich. Why? How did I end up here in the house of your parents? What's my connection? Why am I sleeping here? Amra le, she says to him, V'loy kacha marta li be'erev. That's what you told me. That's what you told me last night to do. What does this mean? So she explains. You told me last night. Kol chayfetz tov sheyesh bebeisi tli oiser l'chi lebeis avich. Take any precious item in this house that belongs to me and bring it to your father's home. Ein chayfetz tov li ba'olam yoser mimcha. There's nobody and nothing more precious in the world to me than you. So therefore, I took you home. You said I should take whatever I want to my father's house. I took you. Now they went back to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Remember, he said, just like when you got married, make a party. When you're getting divorced, make a party. So they were getting divorced. So they made a party, and this is what happened. So now they went back to him. Amad, he stood up, v'hispalel aleim, and he prayed for them. V'nifkedu. And they had a child. That's the story. And this is how the Medrash explains the words Nagila v'nismecha bach. We're going to celebrate with you. And the Medrash continues, what does it mean with you? They could celebrate a lot of different things. So he says Nagila v'nismecha bach. Like we also say in Hallel, Zeh Yemas Hashem Nagila v'nismecha by a similar expression. This is the story about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It's a fascinating story. It's a beautiful story. It's an emotional and moving story. The question is, how do we understand the story to the best of our ability? First of all, what's this idea that before you get divorced, you make a party, you throw a party? And comparing it to a wedding. Well, again, a wedding, two souls are coming together, hopefully a binyan adayat. It's a great celebration. It says even in Svarna that when a husband and a wife get married, a chuppah, it's not a union, it's a reunion. Because the soul of a husband and a wife, it says in Zohar, are two halves of one soul. And before they were born, they were inseparable best friends in heaven. And then the two souls come down, and one soul is born into one house, and one family, another soul is born into another family. When they come back together for marriage, it's not a union, it's a reunion. It's like two friends that haven't seen each other, best friends that haven't seen each other 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, whatever the number is, and now they're reunited. There's a tremendous simcha. But what's this idea that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai pulls out at this moment that says you're getting divorced the same way like you're getting married? Number one. Question number two, at the end, what happens? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai davens for them. If he davens for them at the end, what's the question? He could have done that in the beginning. They came, they said, we don't have children, we want to get divorced. So my husband could remarry, she could remarry, whatever they would do, whatever their plans were for the future, after 10 years. And that's how the Medrash brings in the whole story. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai could have said, wait, let me daven. He doesn't do that. He sends them to make a party before the divorce. Later he starts davening. Those are the questions on this Medrash. So there's a beautiful, really very, very beautiful, very moving discourse by the Baal HaTanya, by the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya. He has a set of svarim called Ma'amorei Admur HaZaken, which means discourses, Ma'amorim, by the Baal HaTanya. And over there, in one of them, a sefer called Ma'amorei Admur HaZaken, Hakzorim, shorter ones, he has an explanation on this Medrash, number one. Number two, the relevance to it, the lesson for it in a person's life. Every story in Torah, like we always speak about the fact, every story in Torah and Medrash, not just a story that happened. As the Zohar says, the word Torah means Torah. Torah means lesson. So everything in Torah is a lesson, it's an instruction. It's not just a book of laws, it's a book of lessons. The word Torah actually means oira, like moira, like moreh, an instruction. It's a manual for life. It's a blueprint for navigating the roads of life, the journeys of life. So every story, even a story that happened in the Medrash with a couple or Shimon Bar Yochai, if the fact that it's recorded in the Torah, in Medrash, it means that there's a lesson for it in life. It's not just a beautiful story about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his greatness, that of course too, but it's also a lesson for life. And so in this Maimon explains both. When Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai tells them to make a feast before they're getting divorced, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is teaching something here. He obviously didn't see this as just a divorce. He saw it as the beginning of a second wedding, of a second marriage. They were married. When a couple gets married, there's a big mitzvah to make a suda. That's the suda sachasana. In fact, you may know that in the times of the Gemara, there was a break. There was a 12-month break between what was called erusin and nisuyin. Erusin was the halachic betrothal, where the husband betroths a woman, gives her a ring, for example, and says, Harayat Mekudashas li. So now it happens all together, but then there was a 12-month break after that. She was still living in her house, he was living in her house, and they gave 12 months for him to prepare the wedding, to get the jewelry he needs for her, to prepare the house, to prepare the feast. It took a long time. 12 months they would prepare. After the marriage, huh?
It was his job. They didn't change their mind.
No, she was married. If they wanted to get divorced, they needed to get. But this was called erusin. It was 12 months to nisun. Later they canceled it for very good reason, because of everything that can happen in those 12 months. So today we do everything under the chuppah. So the first part of the chuppah is the erusin, which is the actual halachic marriage. We take a break, and that's where they read the ksuva. It's really a break. And then the second half is what's known as the Sheva Brachas. That was usually done the second part of the Nisuyin, and then the whole meal after that, and with the chuppah and the yichud room and all that, that belongs to what's called Nisuyin. In Hebrew today, they call erusin engagement, but it's a mistake, because erusin doesn't mean engagement. Erusin actually means full-fledged marriage, betrothal, but they still were not living together. So this was a very big mitzvah to make a celebration. Here, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is again introducing this idea to make a celebration and a feast. And that's why she gave him to drink. Why? Because obviously what Shimon Bar Yochai is we need a second wedding. But they were married already. They didn't need a second wedding. So what Shimon Bar Yochai was saying, oh, you want to get divorced? Okay, get divorced. But during this divorce ceremony, I want you to make a ceremony just like the wedding. Because what is he saying? He's saying really this separation is going to be the beginning of a new relationship. Sometimes two people could be connected, and they're connected on one level. How does the connection graduate to a completely different level? They are already connected. So what happens? There's a separation, there's a severing of the relationship. So it could be a severing of the relationship. What Shimon Bar Yochai was saying is what's going to happen here is it's going to be a severing of the first relationship so that you can usher in a new relationship. Almost like a second marriage, right? Renewing your vows. I mean, it wasn't technically a second marriage because they didn't actually get divorced, but symbolically it was like a new meal, a new feast for the second marriage that's happening after you let go of the first marriage, which is symbolized by you getting divorced. And this is true in relationships. Sometimes, right, a marriage reaches a certain space. It may be civil, it may be problematic, it may be challenging, and there's a lot of challenges that come up, or a boredom, or a monotony, or even worse than that. And it seems like it's about to break apart. And here, two things can happen. One thing that can happen is it breaks apart. Another thing that can happen is the husband and the wife go into a much, much deeper place. They discuss and explore much more vulnerable parts in themselves, and they find the foundation for a much deeper and much more mature relationship and connection. The Gemara says in Maseches Saita that 40 days before a person is created, there's a baskel, there's a voice that goes out in heaven, Bas Ploini Leploini. The daughter of so-and-so will marry the so-and-so. 40 days before the fetus is created. There's a baskel. So the Gemara says over there, but there's another view that says that a shidduch happens not based on a baskel, but based on people's characters. So which one is it? Is it based on a preordained, what we call bashert? Bashert means this is your soulmate already established in heaven, or it's based on character, lefi ma'aseh. So the Gemara says in Tractate Tzaddik, page 2, kan bezivug rishon, kan bezivug sheni. One is the first marriage or a second marriage. First marriage is based on a baskel. It's a preordained voice in heaven. The second marriage is lefi ma'aseh, based on character, based on actions. So one of the explanations in this, a fascinating explanation, is it could be even in one marriage. Sometimes one marriage has one marriage and has a second marriage, a marriage itself. And everybody, I think, knows this in their marriage. A couple could be married 10 years, 5 years. Huh? What? 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. Somebody once wrote, I think Mark Twain wrote that you don't know your spouse until a quarter century of being married, and then you start thinking you know them. So very often a marriage goes through a process, and it may have been fine, sometimes not, but something may have been fine, but then something happens. Maybe there's a breakdown, maybe there's a crisis, maybe there's other stories that people have to deal with in life, and now it's time for a zivug sheni, for a second marriage. The second marriage can't anymore be based on the fact that there was something in our soul that connected us to each other, which is basically we both hear that baskel, but now it has to be much more worked out. You know, when a 19-year-old marries a 23-year-old, or whatever the age is, you know, it's like two startup companies. It's easy to merge, right? But you take AOL, try to make a merger with Time Warner, everybody's in business for decades. It's not so easy to merge, you know? If I'm a startup and you're a startup, we're both broke, we're both babies, let's do it together. Somebody once asked me, I was lecturing, they said, why is it that in the Orthodox Jewish community they get married so young? You should have people more mature, experienced, go through life, find out who they are. What do these babies know about who they are? An 18-year-old knows who she is, a 23-year-old knows who he is. Yeah, I said, it's true, maybe you should wait till 95. You think that's what they should do? I said, okay, not 95, but you got to wait a few years. So I said, it's the other way around. Two startups can do it. Once you have a company that's been in business for years, they have their comfort zones, they have their paradigms. You could make mergers, but it's just more complex. It's much more challenging. I already have my shtick, you got your shtick, I have my idiosyncrasies, you have your idiosyncrasies, and it's already been established for many, many years. You can do it. You can do it. But it takes more inner work to be able to confront my habits and confront my stuff and confront my issues. So I said, whenever if you can, sometimes you can't, but if you can, the startups are easier to come together and invest. And yeah, both babies try to grow up together. And you just hope that both babies work together on growing up, rather than one of the babies growing up and the other one saying, I'm going to choose to remain and take bubble baths and eat my mom's cookies till I'm 69 years old. So very often in one marriage itself, you have a zivug rishon and a zivug sheni. Zivug rishon is a baskel. Zivug sheni wins within the marriage itself, when the couples actually connect, not just because their inner soul knows that there's a connection, which is more mystical and transcendent, but it's so worked out that in a very conscious way, both of their personalities can embrace and agree and celebrate enthusiastically that relationship fully. So the zivug rishon and zivug sheni of baskel and maisim could be in one marriage itself. And this is what Rashbi is teaching. Sometimes it's the separation. In this case, they were ready to get divorced. In other words, they saw this marriage is not continuing because they wanted children. So therefore, they're about to separate. Rashbi looked at them and he understood what they need more than anything is they need a different type of marriage. And here, the Baal HaTanya says something very profound. Rashbi noticed that there's a blockage. Sometimes there are blockages in life. Now, these are very, very deep realities that very few can really notice and understand, and certainly, be so creative in how to solve it. But he saw that there's a blockage in their relationship. Their relationship is not what it could be, not what it's supposed to be, not what it's meant to be. And it's this blockage that's not allowing the flow of miracles to happen in their life. Sometimes there's a flow that's waiting, but there may be a blockage in me. There may be a blockage in my system, in my psyche, in our system. And that blockage is like, it blocks. It literally blocks the flow. It obstructs the flow. So for Rashbi to pray the first time around, he didn't feel would be effective. It's like there could rain, and rain is amazing, but if I didn't plow the earth and I didn't plant any seeds, nothing is going to grow. It's what's called, you have to make a keli, you have to make a vessel. It's not that when I plant the seed and I plow the earth and I make sure it's good soil and there's sunlight and there's oxygen, it's going to be a guarantee. Without water, there's nothing we can do. I need the water, I need that hashpa, I need that flow. But I can create and cultivate the earth that if there's rain, and when there is rain, it's going to be fertile, something is going to happen. We all know in life, people can give you the best advice in life. Gishmei bracha, they're giving you brilliant, brilliant ideas, but I may not be ready to hear it. Right? There's certain things I may have heard 10 years ago or 20 years ago. As they say, it goes in from one ear, it goes out from another ear. Even if I retained it and I memorized it, but sometimes you're just not there. The earth has not been plowed enough to be ready for the rain. So it could rain and rain and rain and rain, and it's amazing. Only one problem, you didn't plant anything. And even if you did, the soil is not fertile. So there's always a combination of getting the message, but also being ready to get the message. So Rashbi could have prayed for them, but there was a blockage in this relationship. Rashbi knew we need to catapult this marriage, that's a good word, catapult this marriage to a different state of consciousness. Elevate it to unique heights. How did he do that? How do you do that? They're about to get divorced. So Rashbi said, we're going to be making this into a second marriage. Of course, he can't tell this to them because then he's going to ruin it. You're getting divorced. Treat it like a wedding. Make a bash. And they did. And of course, she gives him a lot to drink. And the story develops according to Rashbi's vision of what can happen. You see here, very profound pedagogical and psychological vision. What this couple is capable of, but they have to be shocked a little bit into that moment. What happens here? What really happens here? They're getting divorced. They're making a party. Why are they making a party? Because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai told them, and they're good, dutiful Jews. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says to do something, you do it. You don't have to ask. And obviously you could see that it looked like he was a man of means, so it seems from the story. There was nothing missing in drinking. The fact that he says take any precious item in the house means there were precious items in the house. If he was a pauper and a beggar, there's nothing to take. What is she going to take? An old rag, an old shirt? So they made a big suda. At the big suda, they're drinking. At the drinking, she makes sure to give him a little extra. Why? She knows, as the Gemara says, Nichnas yayin yotza soid. She wants to get some secrets. In his openness, being inebriated, he says something to his wife. And he says, we're getting divorced, but we're friends, aren't we? This is not a divorce coming from animosity. This is not a divorce coming because we don't like each other. It's a divorce coming because of very difficult circumstances, that there were no children, and therefore we're getting divorced. So at least take the most precious thing in this house and take it home with you. It's a small symbol of what I can do for you for all these 10 years that we were together. That's from his side. What's from her side? She seizes the moment, and what does she take home? She takes home him. What's her message here? They're getting divorced. What are you taking him home with you? Take home a painting. What are you taking him home for? And when he wakes up, she says, because you told me to take the most precious thing in the house, there's nothing more precious. What just happened? A new dimension in the relationship emerged. There's nothing more precious in my life and in the house more than you. But 1 second, you guys are about to get divorced because there were no children in the marriage. This is where a deeper level in the connection comes out. The deeper level in the connection comes out here is that there is a love that is not conditional. It's not connected, it has no strings attached. She didn't have to meditate and comprehend and get advice from a therapist what to say, what not to say. When he was drunk, he said the truth. Take the most precious thing. And she right away knew at this moment when she was about to lose him what the most precious thing is. Why couldn't this come out a year ago? A year ago they had each other. Right? There's an expression in the Navi Vayomer lo Yonason, you remember what Yonason told David? Machar chodesh v'nifkadeta ki yipaked me'shavecha. Tomorrow you'll be remembered because your seat will be absent. Sometimes it takes absence for us to remember something. It's also true even if it's not physical, it's emotional. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, but it's also true on an emotional level. Sometimes when I have something and I have it in a specific way, that's what I have. I'm not open to experience it in a different way. When I'm about to lose it and I actually say goodbye to it, now I actually have an opportunity to reflect and rethink, is it easy for me to get rid of this? And now I can actually choose it. Sometimes I'm in a relationship and it just happens by life circumstances. Let's face it, people are young, their parents are involved, sometimes other people are involved, and they get married. Yeah, it makes sense. I hear this from a lot of people. I get emails and people write this. I didn't choose my marriage. Somebody else chose it. So sometimes you have communities where there's an arranged marriage, but parents hopefully are responsible and really figure it out. But it doesn't always work. But sometimes you have places there's no arranged marriage. But still, did I really choose it? What did I know? Did I know him? Did I know her? Do people even know themselves? Can we really know what happens when life gets a little tough? Do we know different factors that emerge? Sometimes people don't even know themselves. Do I still know who I am? Every day we try to get a little smarter and touch a little more of who we are. So very often we end up in a relationship which may be beautiful, and of course by the time you realize it, Baruch Hashem, there's a family, so what do? But sometimes there could be a stuckness. A stuckness, it's not always comfortable to talk about, but there could be a stuckness, and people are just going with the flow. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai here challenges them with something very profound. He says, can you actually imagine this moment of letting go, of separation? Because now you'll have an opportunity to choose. And now you won't be able to blame your mother, the shadchan, the rabbi, the therapist, the advisor. You're going to have to blame yourself. In a good way. This is a privilege. Can you really choose? It's 10 years later. Nobody's pressuring you. In fact, halachically, you can all go separate. And now you're going to have to make a choice. But if you make a choice, it's going to be a choice. You're not going to blame the baskel anymore. You're going to blame yourself. Once you blame yourself, it's not a blame, it's accountability. It's I'm in. I'm not in 50% because this is life. I'm in. I'm fully in. This is my choice. This was the gift they were given. If you're making now a choice, it's a second wedding. In fact, in many ways, it's more powerful than the first wedding. The first wedding happened. The second wedding, you are choosing, you're creating. This is what happened. She chose him. And when he woke up, he says, what am I doing here? She said, you told me to take what I want. Most, I took you. And you could see he didn't get upset. He didn't like, really? Now I'm in your mother's house? What are you doing? He wants to know what she's doing in her mother's house when they're supposed to get divorced. But when she says it, they go back to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. They understood that something very magical happened. He says, now your relationship graduated to the next level. Now I can pray for you. Now I can pray for you. He prays for them to have children. In many ways, you could say, the first marriage had a business component to it. I know I'm being maybe a little dramatic. It had a business component to it. It's almost like two people go into a partnership for a business. Now, this is not a business to make money. It's a business, it's a very holy business. It's a business to build a family. But there's a business component here. Business component here, there's a very practical, utilitarian benefit. There's a mitzvah pru urvu, the first mitzvah in the Torah. It's the greatest mitzvah. It's the future. For this, we need to get married. So we get married. And in fact, once there is children, usually, Baruch Hashem, there's so many headaches, there's so much exhaustion. For a few years, you stop thinking. And maybe that's the way it's supposed to be, because if we start thinking too much about everything, everybody is busy, you're preoccupied, somebody has to go to the doctors, there's no dinner, the cleaning lady didn't come, look at this house, and you're making a Sheva Brachas tomorrow night. So now what are you going to start thinking? If you even have 10 minutes to think, you fall asleep. That's it. You can get another hour of sleep. Baruch Hashem. And in many ways, there's a lot of advantages to that than people that sit and think for 30 years to figure out their life. Because when I think like it's a story that there was once a professor in college, and he was teaching, he was a biology professor, he was teaching his students how many muscles they have to move in order to pick up their leg and take a step. And of course, after the class, nobody could move. Nobody could move. Do you know how many muscles? Do you know I can't do this? How can I do this? Imagine before you digested your food, you knew what you had to do, what your body has to do to digest. Trust me, nobody would digest. Thank God we know nothing. Our body knows everything. We know nothing. You know, sometimes it's very true in life as well. If I'm going to figure out everything, I'm going to end up doing nothing, because how can I figure it out? So a lot of life is about jumping in Nachshaban and Minadav to the Yamsuf, but being open. The challenge is when I become smug and complacent and arrogant. I don't know how to digest. I trust. But if I think I become an expert, then it becomes much more problematic. So there's a lot of advantages in the fact that we go into life. Yes, there's a lot of naivete. There's a lot of ignorance. That's where tradition is so powerful, right? When you have a tradition, time-tested truths and values of thousands of years that have created amazing families and have created amazing people and have created amazing communities and have passed on values that have brought life and love and justice and goodness. That's very, very powerful. But like in everything in life, there's pitfalls. We make mistakes. We make errors. And therefore, there comes this moment that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai challenges them to enter into a different type of relationship. And this relationship needs to be much more worked out. You say, but 10 years ago I didn't need it. It's true, I didn't need it. But now, yes, I need to choose. And to choose, I have to be in a completely different place. I have to be completely drunk and sober. He's drunk on love, but he's sober in the fact that he can make that choice. So in every person's life, we have this experience and this opportunity. And sometimes it's tough. In fact, I would say that sometimes what's even happening is a marriage starts experiencing challenges and pitfalls and stumbling blocks. And on one level, it's because things are not working out so well. On a deeper level, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is teaching us the soul of the wife and the husband are craving for a much more authentic relationship. So sometimes when you see things happening, and it could be sometimes things that are not geschmack, I don't have to elaborate on details. Everybody knows different lives experiencing these things in different ways. It can be in a very practical level, on an emotional level, in a very deep way, and sometimes in a very hurtful way, where that loyalty or that oneness is being challenged in profound ways. So sometimes the marriage really is unfortunately broken. That happens sometimes. And it's always sad, it's always tragic. We always try to save a marriage, especially when there's children. We do anything. Divorce is only something we do last resort, but sometimes there's no way forward. But often we have to ask ourselves very deep, is it possible that your soul is actually crying out for a deeper relationship, and therefore you're looking for a much deeper response from the other, and what you're doing is triggering the deepest parts of the other person's soul, that if we now, with the right support and help and inner work and spiritual work and emotional work, we can actually get married again, but from a much, much different place. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says the fact that you guys want to get divorced, it's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new story. I just want to say a story that I heard from a person who was there. I was once walking in Brooklyn in Crown Heights. I was visiting with my son, and I met on Eastern Parkway a man. He already passed away. His name was Rabbi Binyamin Klein. Rabbi Binyamin Klein was one of the secretaries of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And I was walking on Eastern Parkway in the middle of the day, and I saw him. So I said, Rabbi Binyamin, Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom. The Tzelt Ma'amaisa, I told him, share with me a story. So he shared with me something, quite an intense story that he shared with me directly. And he said that there was a couple that was living in Eretz Yisrael. They were living in Bnei Brak or near Bnei Brak. And they were married for 10 years. And they really loved each other. It was a very nice couple. And he was a yeshiva man, he was a ben Torah, he was a serious learner, a Talmud Chacham, but after 10 years, there were no children. So he decided to get divorced, so he should be able to do the mitzvah of pruruvu. First he went to consult this one and that one, but in the community, there's those who say you don't have to get divorced, you're allowed to get divorced. But there's those who say, no, you should. And he came from such a community, so that was the decision. It was done with a lot of heartbreak. He consulted some people, people in his community who he respected, and it happened, they got divorced. A few weeks later, or like a month or two later, she sees she's pregnant. That was not expected. 10 years they've been trying and nothing worked. Gewaltige Simcha, she's pregnant. A problem, he's a Kohen. So you can imagine the heartbreak. After 10 years, they got divorced. Not because they wanted to get divorced. They liked each other. But they finally got divorced. He's a Kohen. He's not allowed to marry a Grusha. So he went to authorities that he respected in his city to consult. And one was a particular famous and respected person, or sheshiva. Everybody lifted up their hands in despair. They're like, what are we supposed to do? There's nothing to do. He went to somebody, and that person suggested, for such a thing, you should go to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This was in the 1980s. Now, he came from a community where there was a lot of opposition to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Let's put it mildly. Mockery and opposition and very dismissiveness, etc. So this was unheard of for him. He said, you're crazy? No way. Like contrary to everything he was raised with. So his friend says, listen, what do you have to lose here? This is a mess. This is a horrible situation. The worst thing is he won't be able to help you. Nobody else is helping you. But if there's somebody who can help you, it's probably him you should go. No, I can't. His wife, his ex-wife, started to pressure and said, what do you have to mix in other things? Try. So begrudgingly, he went to New York. This Rabbi Yochanan Klein told me. And he went, the Rebbe would give, the Lubavitcher would give dollars on Sunday. He would give $1 for tzedakah. And if somebody asked, he would answer a bracha. So this guy went online with a friend who went with him. And he tells the Rebbe fast the story. So the Rebbe gives him $1 and fast he says, "Dos reden mit der Mama." Talk to your mother. Bracha v'atzlacha. He goes out, he says, "Shekayach. I told you this was worthless and meaningless. I should talk to my mother. How is that? What, my mother's going to make a Yeshua here? My mother's going to, like Einstein, go back in time retroactively so we didn't give a divorce?" So the guy says, "What do you have to lose?" The Rebbe said, talk to your mother. He says, "You don't understand. My mother's an old woman. She's already not completely here. She's very sensitive. She's frail. She's weak. I didn't tell her the whole story. Why should I break her heart and aggravate her? So now I should go tell her the story. What's going to happen? What's the point? I didn't tell my mother. She lives in New York." So he says, the Rebbe told you to speak to your mother. He heard the story. Go speak to your mother. So he, again, begrudgingly, he went to speak to his mother. He had to catch her in a moment of, that she was more present, because she was already older and she was struggling with her brain at times. But he found her and he shares with her this devastating story. She looks at him and she says, "The Rebbe told that to you when you came to him and told him what happened?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You should speak to me." "Yeah." He said, "Reden to the mama." In Yiddish, speak to the mother. So she said, "I guess if the Rebbe knows, I can reveal it." And she looks at her son and she says, "There's a story I made an oath that I'm never going to say. We adopted you from before birth. We wanted to give you a beautiful childhood. So we made an oath to each other that nobody is ever going to tell you the story. But you're not a Kohen. My husband was a Kohen, you're not a Kohen. But we made an oath." Now she didn't know about the story. He didn't want to aggravate her, right? Maybe, "You're not a Kohen." And he remarried his wife. Rabbi Klein tells me on Eastern Parkway, he says, I went to visit the oil of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Queens. In Montefiore, Rabbi Klein would go there every week to daven there. And he says, I'm there, and I see a younger man, a guy with a child there, a bachel there, at the Rebbe's tombstone. So when we went out, I said, Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Klein, where are you from? Bnei Brak. What brings you here? So he says, this is the bar mitzvah bacher. This is the boy that was born after we remarried. So I came to say thank you to the Rebbe. Now I have my wife, I have my child. They had a second child afterwards. This is what Rabbi Klein told me that day. So now, so what happens is, so this is what we see in this story, that after 10 years, the miracle happens. Sometimes a person has eyes and sees much, much deeper, sees what other people don't see. That's eyes of a tzaddik. In our own life, it means that sometimes we're watching something and the situation is dismal. You're looking at it, you're stuck between, what is it called, a rock and a hard ball. Sorry, a rock and a hard place. and somebody throws a hard ball on you too. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place with a hard ball that goes into my nose. There's no way out. Like, what are you supposed to do? What were they supposed to do? Right? Nobody thought of, I'm gonna start telling you, you're an adopted child, you're shikayak, right? Somebody's gonna tell me tomorrow I'm an adopted kid. I know my mother, okay? Thank you for the compliment. That's funny. But your son is a tzaddik. Your son is a tzaddik. Takes after his mother.
How could a Jewish parent not tell his child he's not a right?
That I don't know. It's a good question. What did he do at Birchas Kayanim? I don't know. That's a good question. Ich weiß nicht. I don't know. If he got a head, I really don't know. I don't know. Maybe he went up not to hurt his feelings and he didn't do Birchas. I can't answer because I really don't know. I didn't think of asking him the question. It's complicated, yeah. Now, they did it out of goodwill, you understand? They wanted to protect this kid. He shouldn't have a stigma, and he shouldn't be different than everybody in his class in Brooklyn. And they tried to protect him. So sometimes, it's a situation, right? You look, what are we supposed to do? Like, there's no way this can be solved. But the truth is that sometimes there's a whole different perspective, a paradigm shift that you couldn't prepare for. I once went into a bagel shop in Crown Heights. There's a Yid over there. His name is Mr. Scheinberger. So I was waiting. I was buying some bagels for the house. So as he was preparing it, he tells me a story. He tells me, I'm laughing, but it's a very powerful story. It taught me so much. He tells me he comes from a family in Yerushalayim, a big family. It's known as the Scheinberger family. It's an old Yerushalayim mishpacha. His mother died suddenly from a stroke, and she left like 11 kids. She was very young. Yisayimim, this was right before Sukkot. He's telling this to me about his own mother. After Sukkot, after Isru Chag, they went to the cemetery to do Hakamas Matzeva. It was a very poor family, didn't even own a car. It's an old Yerushalayim family. So they were waiting at the bus stop in Yerushalayim for the bus to come to take them to Har HaZeisim, where she's buried, for the Hakamas Matzeva. So you have a father with 11 kids at the bus station. He tells me an old man starts walking by with a stick, and he sees all these kids at the bus stop, and he says, Yeladim, lo yama speak to you lim b'chol hamod, chichim lelech lo'od tiyul. Kids, you didn't have enough trips on Chol HaMoed. Now you got to go on another trip. Why don't you go back to school? It's already after Sukkot. Fun is over. And he walks further. This Scheinberger tells me, he says, I was one of those kids. And I realized how much people are clueless. We were going to the Hakamas Matzeva of our mother who just died. And he's like, oh, you want to take off school again so you can go on another Chol HaMoed trip? It's already Sukkot is over. The fun is over. Sometimes the ability to realize how I may be completely blocked. So here it's obvious, but sometimes it's not obvious. It says the story, the Pasuk says in Vayera that Hagar was sitting with Yishmael and there was no water. Right? And it says Hashem opened her eyes and she saw a well. Then he opened her eyes and he saw a well. She created a well. So the Medrash says everyone is blind till God opens their eyes. What the Medrash is saying is the well could be right here, but I could be blind. And blind doesn't necessarily mean physically. So I could be in a situation where my entire life I judge and I see from a certain perspective and I'm right. And I investigate and I go to people and everybody says the same thing. But then there's a whole different perspective that comes from a completely different world. Like the Rebbe says, go talk to your mother, the last person I want to talk to. Aggravate my mother that this is what's happening with her son who can't have children and got divorced and finally can't remarry. Like the last person you want to talk to, especially when she's so old. And that was the beginning of salvation. And this is true in so many situations in life. So here too, as a couple is going through these various trials and tribulations, and as I said, and I have to say this, sometimes they're so severe, and it doesn't seem that there is likelihood for rehabilitation, and sometimes there's takanat, especially if somebody is not ready to do the work, or not ready to change, or not ready to deal with their personality disorder, trauma, mental illness, or whatever it is that they're dealing with. But very often, what Rashbi says is, no. This separation that you're experiencing is the genesis of a deeper relationship. Both of your souls are crying out for real connection. The connection the first 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years didn't cut it. It was good for then maybe. And now your soul is like, we need something much deeper. How am I going to get something much deeper? So maybe I have to throw a hard ball again. And the hard ball shakes up this relationship, shakes up this marriage. And now suddenly it's like, wow, what do you really feel? What do you really feel? At this point, the husband and wife couldn't deal with camouflaged feelings. They were about to get divorced. And sometimes, we could be in a relationship and our feelings are more superficial. It's like, yeah, we go through the routines, there's a ksuv, everybody is civil, we do the right thing, we have Shabbos, Yom Tov, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Tu B'Shvat, Lag B'Omer, Chanukah, and Yankee has an earache too. So it's like, my emotions could be superficial. Even if we're fine people. But then there's certain moments where my emotions can't be superficial. When there is such a serious crisis and breakdown, my emotions come out. What do you really care for? What are your priorities? What are you living for? Who are you? Who are you? Deep down, a woman wants to know, who are you? And the husband wants to know, who are you? Not who everybody else told us we are. We know who everybody else told us we are. Who are you? Who are you? Who am I? Who are you? That happens here. There was no fanfare. There was no drama. At this moment, the husband found out who his wife is when she slept in the middle of the night to his in-laws. And she found out who he is when he said, wow, this is incredible. Rashbi now had a different couple in front of him. This was a different couple. This was a different type of couple, a different type of relationship. Who knows if that fellow too, in Bnei Brak, if there wasn't some serious blockage because of different things in his own brain that then opened up and allowed this miracle to flow into his and wife's life. I don't know, because I'm not on that level of knowing that, but who knows? So now, let's see how the Balatanya takes this and applies it to our lives individually as well. It's true in relationships, it's also true to each of our lives individually. And here, we're going to see inside, if you turn over the page, before you turn over the page, let's learn a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, and we'll see where Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai got a little bit of an idea from the Song of Songs. And the Alter Rebbe connects these two in a very original way. Shir Hashirim Perek Ches. Song of Songs, chapter 8. Beautiful. Basically, Shir Hashirim Perek Ches. You see the second source, chapter 8. She looks at this person who she cherishes and she says, wow, if only I could be with you like a brother, as if you had nursed from my mother's breast, like my brother. Then I could kiss you when I meet you in the street and nobody would despise me. You hear what she's saying? Basically, the Baal Shem Tov explains this is two types of relationships. Relationship of siblings and a relationship of spouses. It's the Baal Shem Tov's explanation, amazing explanation. When a little brother and sister meet, they can hug each other. A brother and a sister meet even later, they can hug each other and embrace each other and kiss each other. A relationship between a husband and a wife is usually not that way. The relationship and the affection is done in private. So what is she saying here? I wish you were like my brother who nursed for my mother. Then, even if I see you in the street, I could kiss you and nobody will make fun of me. Why this difference? So the Baal Shem Tov says it's interesting. The sibling relationship begins in a revealed way. They're both born from the same mother. We know that we're connected. It begins in a revealed way. So it continues in a revealed way. The relationship between a husband and wife begins not in a revealed way. They come from different families. They may come from different countries. They may come from different cultures. They don't publicize to the whole world, oh, by the way, we're going to go meet. Do you think we're connected? It happens. It has to develop. It has to be cultivated. And it's cultivated in privacy because it's a very intimate choice. It's a very intimate experience. So it remains hidden as well. There's an element of it that remains hidden. But here she's asking for something else. She says, I want to have the aspect of the brother in the relationship. That even in the street, I don't have to feel embarrassed. And the Baal Shem Tov says that this is also a metaphor in our relationship with our soul. Sometimes we have moments of deep spiritual inspiration, but we keep it to ourselves. Somebody else sees it, I'm like, oh, I get very self-conscious. You know, a Jew is davening in shul. He wants to sing, he wants to dance, but everybody's going to think I'm a sugar. I'm supposed to be a yeka, I'm supposed to be an organized person. Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz was once talking in a synagogue in Manhattan, very big modern Orthodox synagogue, and he was a little upset about how it was very rigid, very rigid. So he got up and he said, you know, the Baal Shem Tov once said, everything in the world you can create while you're cold. There's only one thing you can create with coldness, and that's a child. A child can only be created with passion. He says it's a pity that the Baal Shem Tov didn't live now because he would have known about artificial insemination, so he could do it without passion. So he's saying you created a Judaism of artificial insemination. This was his challenge. The point here is that this Jew is saying, I don't know what I want to do it privately, secretly. I want to be able to be free. I want my heart to be open the whole day. I want to be able to kiss you in the street, boys, and I'm not embarrassed. And then she continues, she says, Enagacha, you know what happened? I would take you, Eviyachal Bais Imi. I'll bring you to the house of my mother. Talamdeni, you're going to learn with me. Ashkecha miyayin arekach. I would give you to drink from spiced wine, meyasis rimoini, from my pomegranate juice. Anybody here drinks pomegranate juice? It's healthy, right? The doctor says it's healthy. This is the source. You hear what this woman is asking for? I wish you were my brother. I could kiss you outside. Take you to my mother's house, learn with you, and then I would give you the best wine and the best pomegranate juice. So the Alter Rebbe says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai took this pasuk seriously. When he told them, go make a party, he's like, this is what you guys need. You guys need to celebrate each other. You never celebrated each other. You were like business partners. You were good people. You were good people. But you were building an enterprise together. You weren't connecting to each other. The deepest power of a relationship is that you connect to each other. Why? Not because you're building an enterprise, because you have each other. Then the child that's born from that relationship, it's also different. Then that child experiences in his or her DNA the bliss of being rather than becoming. There's human being, there's human becoming. We're called human beings. Because being is the miracle, being present. You know, so often I meet somebody, what's next? Okay, I'm now my phone. What about presence? To be fully present in life is to celebrate what is here right now without the need to prepare for something else. That's what a relationship is. You know, I could look into my child's eye and this is it. We sit down to play a game, there's no what's next. It's the presence. When the Baal Shem Tov says the world is recreated every moment anew, so it means that all of life is happening right now, not a moment ago, not a moment later. So who is the most important person you're ever going to meet? It's the person you're speaking to right now. What's the most important class I'm ever going to give in my life? Class I'm giving right now. She says no brainer. Like, what's the chiddush? Duh. You know the intelligent crowd you have here in the room? You think you're going to find other more intelligent people?
Maybe next week, but we don't know.
You mean we'll all be more intelligent next week? What's the greatest place I'll ever be in? The place I'm now in. And what's the greatest moment I'll ever be in? The moment that is here. That's what it means. The world is created now. So all the energy is here right now. Tomorrow's energy is a different energy. I don't want to hijack it. But that comes only from celebration of being, where the relationship is not for something else. The relationship is you for being you. This means I have to be able to open up myself to that space in my soul, which seeks that level of oneness, which is comfortable with that level of oneness. That's where real being is. That's where I'm part of the rhythm, where my heart resonates the vibrations, the divine vibrations of this moment. When Rabbi Yehuda Halevi sings, Ani kinor l'shirayich, I am a harp for your melodies, Yerushalayim, and it went into the famous song, Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, right? L'chol shirayich ani kinor. It means my soul is a harp for all your melodies. So right now, it's hearing that music. That's the power of a relationship, where the relationship itself is everything. And that's what she says. I don't want anything else. I want you. But one second, we have a major crisis. We have all these things in our life that it's not working. We don't have children, for heaven's sake. What does that mean about our marriage? And at that moment, they reached a different place of consciousness. And that is, if the relationship is about the relationship itself, so we have something perfect going on. This doesn't mean there's no challenges in life. This doesn't mean there's no trials in life, but it means that there's something that's irreplaceable. There's something that's priceless. There's something that's divine, and that is I have you, and you have me. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai read this pasuk, and that's what he had them do. She actually fulfilled this. She wasn't embarrassed anymore. She schlepped him to his mother's house. She gave him the wine. She gave him the pomegranate juice. He got drunk, and finally his true love came out. He wasn't anymore a calculated man who had to be intellectual and detached. His emotions could come out. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, this is a couple. Now we could pray. Now there could be a flow. So now let's see how this applies in every person's life, not only with biological children, also with spiritual children. Because children exist on two levels. There's biological children, the bracha of Zareh Chai V'Kayama. But as the Gemara says, Toldosayim shel tzaddikim masim tovim. As we know, many throughout history have not been blessed with children. The Rebbe guaranteed that this couple should have a child, but he himself never had children. Many other great people didn't have children. In fact, if you look at some of great giants who rebuilt the Jewish world after the Holocaust, it's quite an intense revelation that they didn't have children in different communities. For example, the Satmar Rebbe, right? I know the Satmar Hasidim, Rebbe Yoelish Teitelbaum, he had a daughter, but she passed away in his lifetime, and he passed away without children. In the Litvischer world, the Chazon Ish, Rabbeinu Avram Yeshaya Karelitz, he passed away in 53, also passed away without children. In the Litvischer world, Reb Chaim Isaac Gradzensky was the Rav of Vilna. I believe he had one daughter who passed away who died before him. He passed away in 1940. The Belzer Rebbe, Reb Aaron of Belz, he lost his children in the Holocaust. He remarried, but he never had children. He had a nephew. The Belzer Rebbe today is a nephew. His half-brother had remarried and had a child. The same is true the Bais Yisrael, the Gerer Rebbe. The Gerer Rebbe also remarried, but didn't have children after the Holocaust. He lost his children and then remarried. It's quite intense when you think about it. The same is true with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, never had children. So these are people's souls that were designated by Hashem to rebuild the Jewish world after the Holocaust, and they became fathers and mothers to thousands and thousands or millions of Jews. They themselves were not blessed with biological children. So the Gemara says, and we don't know why, of course. It's just a very, very powerful reflection. So the Gemara says, everybody has a child. The question is, what type of child? There's physical children that we create, which is, of course, the greatest and priceless gift. May they be healthy and well. You should all have a lot of nachas from them. but we're always creating spiritual children. Spiritual children is the way we impact ourselves and our environment and the world around us, and students and disciples and people. And it's the good deeds that we plant in the world, the Masim Tovim, those are children. And they're real children because they take seed and they reverberate for generations and they reverberate for eternity. Emotions in Tanya and in Sefer Yetzirah and Kabbalah and Chassidus are called children. Because every emotion is a child. There's no emotion that is not born from awareness. And that's why it says that Chachma and Bina is a father and a mother, and Midos are called children. Just like a child needs a father and a mother, every emotion has a parent. There's no emotion that is not preceded by awareness. We don't always realize that, because when I'm having an intense emotion, it's just how I feel. It's not just how I feel. There's an awareness that is giving birth to this emotion. Any emotion that there is, whether it's a positive one of closeness or one of distance, whether it's ava or yira, love or awe, there's an awareness behind it. Or to put it very simply, it's never what you say that triggers me. It's what I heard you say that triggers me. You understand what I'm saying? You could tell me something, you could say the same thing to somebody else. He didn't get triggered, I did. Why? It's not the words you said, it's what I heard you say. What I heard you say was based on how I think about myself and how I think about life. Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. It's how I think about you. It's based on my belief system. It's based on my paradigms. It's based on my coping mechanisms. So suddenly you said something, and what I just heard is, there's a lion about to attack me. The other person is, oh, that was cute. Really? That was a lion or that was cute? Oh, lions are cute? Cubs are cute, not lions. The answer is, I have more control than I think. I have control in the sense that I take responsibility for my reactions because they're based on me. Now, I may not be able to change it immediately, but that awareness is already a very priceless awareness. That's the avoid of self-awareness. So, Ava and Yira, love and awe and all emotions are children. Just like children develop. Children grow up in a certain environment. Children can be educated. Children need to be respected. Children need to be disciplined. Children, most importantly, need to be loved and embraced. Emotions are exactly the same way. They're like children. They don't grow up in a vacuum. They have fathers and mothers. We need to respect them, but we also need to know their limits. We need to know that they're children, but we need to know they're coming from somewhere. That's what it means emotions are children. So when this couple comes to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, say, we don't have children. The Alter Rebbe says it's also the Jew coming and saying, I don't have emotions. So now let's see his point here. We'll see it inside. Turn over your page. Tov Samach by Mari Admir Azakin. Zgula lebanim sheyiya haylada. This the Balatanya said something, a zgula meaning an auspicious experience to be able to have birth. In serving Hashem, giving birth to a son and a daughter is awe and love. Ava and Yira, those are the two basic emotions. Love is closeness, and Yira is respect, awe, reverence, distance, boundaries. Those are the two basic emotions of closeness and distance. I have an emotion, I want to be close to you, and I have an emotion, I want to keep away. Both can be very positive, both can be very negative. Sometimes there is a love that's disastrous. Sometimes there's awe that is actually very beautiful. I need my boundaries, I need respect. Sometimes there's yira where I'm afraid of you, I'm anxious. That's a different type of yira. So generally in Avodas Hashem we have Ava and Yira. We have that sense of closeness and that sense of awe and reverence and respect. Ema is fear. Fear. Yira is usually fear, but it's better to translate it as awe or reverence or respect. The person who may be serving God, he's doing good things, but there's no emotion, there's no ecstasy. He has it potentially. It's all there, dormant. So we need advice. We need advice. The Balatanya was talking apparently to somebody here who struggled with this. The Medrash says, he's now paraphrasing to him very briefly the story. Somebody came to Rashbi, didn't have children. Rashbi told him, just like when you got married, you did it with joy. Now the opposite, the divorce should be with joy and make a feast, and he did it. Ubeshas hasimcha, during the joy, Amallah, he told his wife, he told her, take the most precious item in this house and go home to your parents in peace. So what did she do? And she brought wine. She got him very inebriated until he fell asleep on his bed. She brought him to her house. Ma'asis li zeva, amro loy aloy, ata martu she'eka chayfetz hayoyser chaviv ve'ein li chayfetz hayoyser chaviv li yoyser memcha, she'ata chayfetz hayoyser chaviv li mikol davar sheba'olam. V'achach Allah shebeshvil zahayu labanim. He finishes the story. When he woke up, he saw that he's not in his house, and he says to her, what did you do to me? What did you do? So she said, you told me to take the most precious item, and there's nothing more precious than you. And because of that, they can have children. This story is also a mashal. When he says it's a mashal, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. He means it's also a metaphor. It's not just a story, it's also a lesson in life in Avodas Hashem. A Jew, through his or her actions, whether it's actions of tzedakah, giving, helping, charity, chesed, or any mitzvah with joy, it creates by Hashem a moiridik simcha. There's a relationship. Think in a marriage or best friends. When one, a husband or a wife, is connecting to the other person and the other person feels the joy in the connection, how they're looking forward to it, what does it do to the other person? It triggers a tremendous amount of of ecstasy, of passion. When you see how someone is interested and enthusiastic and celebrates the relationship, it touches the other person's heart in such a profound way, with gratitude, with simcha, with joy. So the Baal HaTanya says the same is true with us and Hashem. When a Jew serves b'simcha, don't just think it's your thing. It's not. It reverberates in the entire cosmos. In Hashem himself it reverberates. It's like he becomes so b'simcha. He becomes b'simcha. Simcha g'day l'moed. V'zel, this is the meaning of that verse in the Song of Songs. She says, I wish I can bring you to my house. Eshakach, I want to give you to drink. Miyayin harekach, from spiced wine. Me'asis rimoinim, from pomegranate juice. What does this mean? Why do I want to give God a drink from spiced wine and from pomegranate juice? Listen to what he says. Dahainu, kol echad mi Yisrael malei mitzvahs kirimin. Every Jew is filled with mitzvahs, with goodness, like a pomegranate with seeds. A pomegranate, you open it up and it's filled with seeds. The Malbim even says that some pomegranates have 613 seeds. In yeshiva, I had a friend, I guess he was a little bored, so he decided to count. So he would sit a whole day with pomegranates and count. Today you could buy pomegranate seeds in the store, but then you didn't. So it was a real avodah. He sat and he counted and counted. I still don't remember the number he came up with. So he says, every Jew is filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate. You're filled with goodness like a pomegranate. Now, you know, between the pomegranates, you have those yellow membranes. They can be a little bitter. You don't want to get them in your system. We've tried when we wanted to extract the seeds and not work hard enough. But every Jew is filled with pomegranate seeds. And the inner core is beautiful. It's delicious. That's the pomegranate juice. The liquid, the juice in the pomegranate is the most delicious part of the pomegranate. That's why it's healthy. That's why it's nutritious. It also has a tarty, good, delicious spice to it. So when you say a Jew is malei mitzvahs kirimin, it means that inside the rimin there is delicious seeds, and inside the seeds there's extraordinary, delicious juice. Inside every Jew there's pnimius, and there's the juice in the Jew. The pnimius, it's delicious. Sometimes, though, I have to extract it. You have to take out the seeds. It's an avodah. You have to excavate it. You have to dig it out. You have to remove it from all the membranes and all the shells. So this is what Chesed She'ashirim. I want to give Hashem this wine. I want to give him, as we'll soon see, wine reveals secrets. When people drink wine, secrets come out. Again, it's the pnimius. It's the secret of the Jew. This is a metaphor. I want to give you my wine. I want to give you my pomegranate juice. I want to give you my pnimius. That's what a person wants. When the wife tells this to the husband, this brings the husband all the way down, all the way back to the relationship. It's like, wow, this is who you are. Kamayim hapanim lapanim, right? The image we show, the water shows back to us. So the Balatanya says, this is how we bring Hashem completely down. When the Jew says, I'm giving you pomegranate juice, I'm giving you wine, just like she gave her husband to drink. And that drink that she gives him ignited a deeper level in the relationship. Here too, when the Jew reveals this type of the relationship, you're the most precious thing to me in the world, that brings the relationship into a new level where they reconnect in the most powerful way. But when the Jew says, Mili b'shamayim v'imcha lechafatzti b'aretz, it says in Tehillim 73, Ayin Gimel, David HaMelech says, who do I have in heaven? And with you I desire nothing on earth. So the Balatanya says as follows, Dihine bara kadosh baruch hu b'shvil Yisrael Gan Eden Elyon, hanikra Gan Eden. Hashem created for Yisrael the higher level of Gan Eden, which is called Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. It's called Hashamayim. That's what we mean by Hashamayim, heaven. The Gan Eden Atachten Anikra Gan Eden Haaretz. There's the Gan Eden Hashamayim and Gan Eden Haaretz. There's the higher Gan Eden, heavenly Gan Eden, and earthly Gan Eden, paradise. So Mili Bashamayim is talking about the higher paradise. Eretz is talking about the lower paradise. Va'afal pikein ein lanu chayfetz v'rotzen achiz ulasoi loy b'shvil olam haza v'loy b'shvil olam haba. And here David HaMelech says, who do I have in heaven, and with you I want nothing on earth. That means the Jew is saying even Gan Eden, he has no desire outside of him, not for Olam Haza, and not even for Olam Haba. V'imcha masho imcha she'enei echad loy chafatzti. And v'imcha, with you I don't want anything. What does it mean with you? Anything that's with you, but it's not you. Anything that's not oneness, I don't want. You are the most precious item. And this is the greatest gift from Hashem to us. Kamoi, we say in davening, Vatiten lanu Hashem Elokeinu, b'matana sheHashem yiyeh Elokeinu. We say in davening, Vatiten lanu Hashem Elokeinu, ba'ava moyadim l'simcha. Vatiten lanu, right? Ki ba'or panecha nasata lanu Hashem Elokeinu. So usually the world teaches, Vatiten lanu Hashem Elokeinu. You have given us Hashem, our God. You have given us holidays, or you have given us Torah. The Rebbe says there's a deeper interpretation. Vatiten lanu, you gave us. You know what you gave us? Hashem Elokeinu. The deepest gift you gave us is you gave us you. Vatiten lanu, what did you give us? Hashem Elokeinu. That's what you gave us. You gave me you. There's nothing more precious in the world. V'imcha lo chafatzti ba'aretz shekshani eretz mashayach lachpoitz. And with you I desire nothing on earth. When I'm in a state of eretz, what do I want? What is he saying here? What we spoke about a marriage is a reflection of our relationship with Hashem. Our relationship can also be like a business transaction. Just like it's in a marriage, it's also true with Hashem. What does it mean, a business transaction relationship? It could be a very beautiful business transaction. I want benefits. I want benefits. Like this couple, they wanted to build a family. This is why we're with each other. Their connection with each other was not there. With Hashem also, I want Gan Eden. I want Olam Haza, this world. I want Olam Haba. I want the next world. What's wrong? A person wants Olam Haba. We talk a lot about a person doing things in this world for Olam Haba. The tragedy is, or the blockage here is, I'm not really in touch with what it means to be in a relationship. In other words, I'm not in touch with the depth of my soul. In the deepest part of the soul, if we remove all the layers, what does the soul really, really want? It's not looking for a business transaction. In the soul, in its core, it says, Mili b'shamayim v'imcha lechafatzti ba'aretz. I want you. More than anything, I want you. There's nothing more precious in the world than you. What do you mean? There's heaven, there's Olam Haba, there's earth, there's Gan Eden, even if not Olam Haza, but Gan Eden Atachten. Even Gan Eden Atachten, what are these? This is my experience of a benefit that I'm going to get. What Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was helping this couple realize is, you have each other. And that each other is more precious than anything else. when the soul in its deepest core, it wants and yearns and craves one thing. And that is what he says, echad, oneness, complete vekus, without any agenda, not even a spiritual agenda. It's not that I should reach a level and I should reach perfection and I should reach light and I should get this. That's all a compromised, diluted version of reality. And it's not touching my deepest, deepest space. In my deepest space, I want you. Dichalein, I want you. And just like in a couple, when they got this, their relationship was different. What do you mean? But they didn't have kids. There was a big issue here. That's why they were getting divorced. In our own marriages, what does a relationship look like? What if there's all these challenges and struggles? We want to heal this, and we want to get rid of this, and we want to fix this, and we want to fix that. But nothing challenges this truth. If we realize the most powerful thing we have here is the presence of the other. So even in the midst of all the obstacles, and even in the midst of challenges, that retains its power and its momentum because it touches us in the deepest way. It actually gives people the courage and the power to be able to deal with any curveball that comes that way. And it gives a joy and a fulfillment even in the presence of something chaotic, of something difficult, of something challenging. But there's something that's deeper than everything because the relationship is not just based on a utilitarian, we'll be here and therefore we're going to get this and this benefit. It's a completely different way of looking at it. It's the relationship itself is its most powerful, powerful experience. More powerful than anything else. It's being present to the flow of life right now without any agendas. You say, well, this is very idealistic. It's not very idealistic. It's really being in touch with your soul. When I'm really in touch with my soul is a channel for the divine music right now. And it's always about this moment, this experience of being together right here in this experience. Ainly, I don't have anything better in the world than this. Often, I'm already stuck in paradigms and expectations, and I'm building relationships to fix those expectations, to change those things, to repair things. Here it's the opposite. Can I go into a place of full relationship, and then any miracle that has to happen will be able to happen? Because you're in the flow, you're in the zone. But it's without any agenda. Suddenly the husband and wife said, oh, we have each other. Wow, 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 incredible. Now he said, now I could daven for you. Now I could daven for you. It's also true in our relationship with God. No life is perfect. So my relationship with Hashem, okay, Hashem, I'm going to daven, but I need to get this telephone call, but my daughter, my son, me, what's wrong? I'm making deals. I'm in a business relationship. It's not about wrong or right. It's if I'm actually alive or I'm blocked. In the real relationship, Vatiten Lanu, the greatest gift is Hashem Elokeinu. The greatest gift is not Shamayim, not Eretz. It's you. That's what the woman tells the husband. You said I should take the most precious thing. I don't have anything else that's more precious. The most precious thing is I have you. Vatiten lanu Hashem Elokeinu. And therefore, I'm completely free. The most important, precious thing in the world I have right now, right here, under any situation. You say, yeah, but this is bothering me, and I would have liked to see this with my son, and this with my daughter, and this with me, and this with my wife, and this with my sister, and this with my brother-in-law, and this with my mother, and this with my business, and this with my house, and this with this. Everybody, lefum shura delay. I understand. But my soul, the deepest thing it wants and needs is Vatiten lanu Hashem Elokeinu. I want you. That's really, really what the soul wants. When I have that, I have everything. And now I show up to life the way I need to show up. I don't become a passive couch potato. But I show up with the deepest celebration. This couple, they had each other. That was absolute. No strings attached. It's a whole different relationship now. They had a new marriage. Vatiten lanu Hashem Elokeinu. This is what Rashbi is teaching. And that's why it's interesting that Rashbi's day, Yom HaElulah, brought out such a simcha. It's interesting, in Israel, the second most visited places after the Kaisel is Miran. And I think the biggest physical gathering of Jews usually happens like Ba'imei Miran, like 500,000 or more than 500,000. But it's the day that he passed away, the fires and simcha and dancing. What is it about? Obviously, Rashbi brought something into the world that aroused a new spirit. And this was really the power of Pnimiyus HaTorah, the inner core of Torah, the neshama of Torah, that doesn't celebrate the transactions we have between us and God. It celebrates the presence, the relationship itself happening right now, right here at this moment, in every place, in every time. Like I said, the person I'm talking to is the most important person. The moment I'm in is the most important moment, because Vatitan lanu Hashem Elokeinu. When I'm looking for something, there's always a more important moment. Tomorrow the action happens. Next year, in 10 years, when I graduate, when I retire, when I make money, when I buy the house, when I sell the house, when the nest is free, empty, when the nest is full again, with the einaklach. But in this space, it's right now, just like in a marriage. It's right here, right now. So I want to give him this wine, I want to give him this pomegranate juice. And it creates such a simcha in the other as well. There's nothing like a husband and wife feeling from the other person that the most important place that they can be in is in this place right now with their spouse. The most important time is the moment they have with their spouse. The most important experience is the experience they're having right now. The most important person is this person, and that the celebration of being with the other reigns supreme and triumphs every other piece of celebration. Every other celebration. I wanted to say piece of jewelry, but I don't know if I should say that. Then, if this happens, the jewelry will come already, just like the kids will come. We're not worried. When a spouse feels that genuinely, there's nothing that opens up the heart that way. But it's hard because we're insecure. We have to protect ourselves. I don't want to be so vulnerable. Children have this. They're so vulnerable. And they're so open, and then we get a stab. And then we close up. And in our relationships, we're also closed up. It's very hard for us to celebrate this type of a marriage because we don't want to be hurt. This is a very vulnerable place to be in. To be in this place, there has to be full trust. If I open myself up to somebody and I'm getting anything less than 100% reciprocity, it's very, very hurtful. It's like, what do I need it for? Let me just be sheltered. Let me put my heart in jail, and I'll approach you from a very limited point of view. This is real trust. When the Alter Rebbe talks about this is real trust. Vatitan lanu Hashem Elokeinu. I'm fully here, fully present. No obstructions, no limitations. The heart is completely open. The simcha that creates in Hashem from my pomegranate juice and my wine, he says, is incredible. That brings down the relationship in an incredible way. This is the feeling of Mili Bashamayim Vimcha Lechafatzti Boitz. Even Gan Eden doesn't cut it. Not that we have anything against Gan Eden, but Gan Eden can also be a place where I get stuck. I'm stuck in a spiritual ego where I want to milk you for your spirituality. Nice. It's better than potato chips. But I'm still stuck. In the real relationship, it's, I have you. I'm not interested in your paradise. I'm interested in something much deeper. The real paradise is, I don't need paradise. I need you. Vatitan lanu Hashem Elokeinu. I want you. So he finishes now. He says, "Adam hu al derech zeh ba'avodas yisbarach, ve'ein roitze shum davar echad biladoi, az memela yachal lahapich me'alma diskasya." When a person reaches this space, and I'm really free from anything else, now transformation happens on all levels. The most concealed worlds can become revealed because all the blockages open up. When I have this type of openness, the most concealed parts can come out. This creates children. Hein benefesh, spiritually. This is how my emotions open up. The emotions are there. Everyone has these children. Everyone has the love and awe. But as we said, it can be hidden. It can be potentiality. But when a person opens themselves up to this type of the relationship, now the emotions flow freely. They come out fully. And then from the spiritual, physically, there's also children. ayidei shelo yachbot shloshum davar ba'olam hein benefesh hein beguf rak ritzoni yizbarach yir ritzoni v'hakalach. This is where the soul reaches its ultimate truth, where I desire nothing in the world, not with soul, not with body, only His will is my will, and it's all one. So it looks like a person is giving up everything. Really, they're gaining a relationship with their truest soul. Because deep down the soul, Einoid Mulvade, Hakalech, everything is one. When my soul is in touch with its own core, it wants one thing, to experience and be one with the Echad, with the oneness, with Hashem Echad. That's what the soul is. That's what it really is. Soul is not narcissistic, it's not self-centered, it's not even spiritually self-centered. The soul is a chelik, it's a derivative of pure infinite consciousness. So when the soul has that, the soul is in one, that's what it really wants. So you say, yeah, but I want this, I want this, I want this. I want all of this when I don't know what I really, really want. What I really, really want is to be one with you. I want only you. Everything else I want is a manifestation to be able to fulfill that. When that opens up, then there's no blockages. When there's no blockages, things open up. All the flow can happen. And he finishes the last word, V'dai v'dal, v'dai l'mevin. This will be enough for somebody who understands. This will be enough for somebody who understands.
What is that word?
Me alma de iskasia. Me alma de iskasia. It's a term from Zohar, from the concealed world, from the world that is concealed. We also need to be grateful this week for the great miracle that we saw, that a Haman, Harasha of our time, just like Haman was second in command to Achashverosh, Ibrahim Raisi, the president of Iran, was second in command to the Ayatollah, to Khomeini. And this man, known as the Butcher of Iran, murdered more than 30,000 people in Iran, probably much more. And just 5 weeks ago sent more than 300 drones, missiles, rockets into Israel 5 weeks ago with the intention of murdering countless Jews, Rahman al-Islam. 99% of them were received and percepted outside of the airspace of Israel, which was an incredible, incredible miracle. And not one person was killed. One Bedouin girl was unfortunately hurt. This was a grand miracle. And 5 weeks later, this butcher, who also funded the whole Hamas atrocity of October 7th, and really a Haman Arash of our time, died, was killed in a helicopter crash with his foreign minister. And as the pasuk says in Mishlei, "Ba'avoid Rishayim Rina," when the wicked perish, it's a time of celebration. Cain, as Devorah Hanaviah in her famous song after she defeated Sisera, says, "Cain yoivdu kol oivecha Hashem." All your enemies, all the enemies of goodness and love and kindness and decency and humanness to their own people even, should perish this way. But it's important to be grateful, because nobody could have expected that the president of Iran should be killed in a helicopter crash with his foreign minister suddenly, just a few weeks after he planned this massive, massive attack on the Jewish people, and after months of trying to instigate a war against Israel and the Jewish people. It also shows you how a miracle can happen like this. Nobody expected it. Israel didn't do it. Israel didn't plan it. Israel wasn't behind it. The Mossad was not on the airplane. They didn't plan a bomb on the airplane. This is a pure divine intervention and a miracle to remove from our planet this Rasha Merusha. And for this we have to be grateful, because the Jewish people are one lamb between 70 wolves, literally, throughout all of our history. And the fact that we're here is not according to nature. It's completely miraculous. And then every so often we see these moments of an incredible, incredible revelation that is really very, very inspiring. And may the day of Lag BaOmer, the Yom Elul of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who ignited this fire in the Jewish people, bring only infinite blessings to our brothers and sisters in Israel, to all the hostages, to all the soldiers, to all the families of the slain and all of the wounded, and to all of the Jewish people. And may we be able to remove all the blockages and experience true oneness and bliss for eternity. And see the Geula Shleima take it from Miyad. Have a beautiful week. Sure. Oh, pleasure to see you.
Thank you for shedding light on the fact that my husband's been in a wheelchair for over 2 years.
Unbelievable. Wow.
Everything you said, I totally connect.
Yeah.
It shifted our relationship.
Wow.
Everything
Unbelievable.
you're saying,
You'll send him my love,
I
yeah?
will.
Please.
Yeah.
Tell him that we miss him.
We both listened to Monday's share.
And he even wrote a comment.
Yeah, he did.
Tell him I saw his comment and I see his other comments. Atzlacha regards. And a refuah shleima. A refuah
We
shleima.
have a new attendant today, so devoted that her husband actually came and sat in the back.
Oh, wow.
Me over. I don't know if we met a few years ago at Hosanna Inspire.
Yeah.
And then with Rabbi Ellie.
Yeah. And Druzia, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to say my sister-in-law, by Sheva Fern, she usually comes this year.
And here is the devoted husband. Obviously, they have no blockages.
We just got married. We just got
They
married.
obviously are very connected.
Yeah, we got married.
Mazel tov. Mazel tov. Okay. Should have a beautiful marriage and a lot of success.
Last year, so when you were
Oh, beautiful.
Perfect, a perfect cheer. You didn't even know
You
it.
see that? Wow. Mazel tov. Wow. A new marriage. Okay. From strength to strength. And thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Okay. I hope it doesn't take away from the attention that you want.
I'm present.
I don't want him to get jealous.
It only helps. Thank you.
Gewaldig. A lot of atzlacha. So you came from California?
Yeah, from Irvine.
Beautiful. Send my regards to Rabbi and Rebbetzin and Druzia and Rabbi and Rebbetzin Tenenbaum and all of the other chevra over there, okay?
Okay, I will. Thank you so very much. Be well.
Beautiful. Hatzlacha Rabbi in Irvine. And Mazel Tov again. Larichas Yamim V'Shanim Tovos. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just a channel. I just try to channel. Yes, Be'ezer Hashem. Yeah, go ahead.
One of them, what do you mean by I want you? That's one. And the second one is, what if like you're in a relationship with a narcissist?
If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it's very, very hard.
Oh, okay. So sometimes God feels like, I feel like God's a narcissist.
You feel like God, yeah, I hear you. I understand.
So this
We need to heal. We all need to heal.
I'm working on it for years. So nothing's
Yeah. No, narcissism is a very serious disease, yeah.
So don't be involved.
Well, if there's room for growth and accountability, then good things can happen. If there's absolutely no, you need a support system.
Right. And what does it
Sometimes people with narcissism, if they take responsibility and they're ready to go for healing, there could be tremendous healing. But it's hard. It's very hard. And if they don't take responsibility, it could be a Gehenna in the house. So it's very important to have a support system in place. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Very often narcissistic people, we have here a therapist, so maybe she'll shed light, but very often narcissistic people are completely unaware of how narcissistic they are, and part of it could be, not always, but it could be that in childhood their developmental trauma was so profound that there was no self ever developed, and for them to survive they can't allow anybody to exist because there's always a sense of danger. If I'm not at the center of attention 24/7, I'm not safe. The world is the most dangerous place. So they'll feed off everybody and everything. They always need to be in the center. They sometimes do it in very brilliant ways. At the core of it may be incredible fear, incredible beyond what they know. Their mind is so frozen. They call it dorsal. Their mind is so frozen that they don't even know what's happening. They're angry, they're obnoxious, they're selfish, and they don't even realize, like,
But they're a soul.
huh?
This is their soul.
They have a soul, but they don't have access to it. So if they can begin a process of discovery, and they need a lot of support for this, And they need a good healing for this. Today there's a lot of healing methods. To be able to uncover stuff, then there could be tremendous growth. But if it's a person who's a narcissist that everyone else is guilty and they're completely not willing to do any form of healing, it's very, very difficult. It's very challenging. It's horrible.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I know about narcissism a lot.
Me too.
A lot of us do. Message from my husband, he just told me as I was
Thank you for coming. Nice to have you.
He told me, tell Rabbi why I said, I'm not going to go tell him, but the thing that you spoke about Rabbi Shimon today, and the whole share was about him, he made a discovery that the 33rd pasuk of the Torah, which is the second pasuk in this second parak, Rashi brings down Rabbi Shimon.
Wow.
33
Shikayach. Wow.
Shimon. And he says Rashi seldom mentions
Names. Yeah. Amar Reb Shimon. Yeah.
Rabbi Shimon.
Yeah. In Parshas Behar.
No.
In Parshas Bereshis. From Bereshis.
Yeah. The 33rd pasuk of the Torah.
Oh, about Vayichulu. Vayichulu. Yeah, Vayichulu. So the 33rd pasuk Rashi quotes Reb Shimon. Very nice.
So being that you spoke about
Lag BaOmer, beautiful.
was about him.
Beautiful. Yeshikayach. Yeshikayach. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I said this is the best shiur we'll ever have. For the moment. Even not for the moment.
Ruth is going to be next week. You're going to be like,
I got your email. Okay, I'm looking into it. I'm saying, I'm just studying it to see. Okay, so give me a moment, yeah?
What would you be advice for someone who doesn't feel a connection to Hashem?
The connection to Hashem begins with feeling a connection to ourselves. Does this person feel a connection to themselves?
I guess that may be a struggle.
Yeah, very often, feeling a connection to Hashem means feeling a connection to life. I was with somebody a few days ago and they were telling me how much they love Hashem. So I asked this person, what do you mean when you say you love Hashem? And the person said, I mean that I love life. I just love life. And I'm a channel for life. And every breath is channeling divine life, Hashem's life. And I just love it. It's such a gift. So basically what this person was saying, and I think very truthfully, love Hashem is not just this abstract thing, I love some angel living in heaven. Loving Hashem really means loving the beat of life. It's loving the breath of life. It's loving the rhythm of life that comes through us every single moment. It's being open to it. Now, it's hard because if I'm afraid, or I'm anxious, or I'm overwhelmed with stress, or I'm angry, or I'm upset about so many different things, I don't love life. I'm just trying to survive, right? So it's really a process. Yeah, we can have this both at the same time, yeah, because we have different parts in us. My animal soul could be very scared and very overwhelmed. My divine soul is very regulated and very in touch. So there's a part of me that can really love life and breathe that love. And there's a part of me that's saying, no, but you have to do this. But you have to go to the airport. But the taxi won't come. You have to move out of the house. What are you doing for the summer? I don't even have a ticket. Oh, yeah.
Really when it comes to connecting to Hashem, if you feel both at the same time and one is more.
So the love brings to connect. So love is, so now I want to live in a way that I'm going to connect to that life, to that source of life.
How do you connect to Hashem?
So every mitzvah is a connection. Every davening is a connection. Learning Torah is a connection. And so you daven in your own language. You daven in English. You daven your own words. You pray your own words. You celebrate life. You can write a poem. You could sing a song. You can ask for what you want to ask for. Also, friendship is a way of connecting.
What if it's just hard to speak to Hashem in general?
So speak to yourself and speak to friends. Remember, every person is in the image of Hashem. So when we speak to the image of God in another person, we're speaking to Hashem. And also Hashem is in you also. So when you speak to yourself, you're also speaking to Hashem. You understand what I'm saying? Hashem is not just some creature there that we talk to. It's also you. You get it? Huh? What this? Talk to yourself.